Hello everyone, it's Scott here, and to celebrate the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo have sent me a mysterious package which feels quite weighty. So I'm joined by Mario in a very small miniaturized form, and we're going to open this parcel up and see what's inside. And time for the big reveal. So on the inside of the box we have the Nintendo Switch 2 logo, a Nintendo Switch 2 camera, which you can use with the game chat functionality, which is free for a year on Nintendo Switch 2. And then inside that, if you can barely see it, is the Nintendo Switch 2 console. Now, out of all the times that I've been sent stuff from Nintendo, I've never received a console from them before. So this is absolutely amazing. I did actually pre-order a Nintendo Switch 2 console, so I do have another one as well. But they have sent a Nintendo Switch 2 Mario Kart World Edition console, which I'll unbox in just a moment. So let's cut to that. So here we have a closer look at the Nintendo Switch 2 console with Mario Kart World. So this is a console bundle that contains both the Nintendo Switch console and a digital code for Mario Kart World. On the top of the box you'll find the Nintendo logo, on the bottom of the box is a load of safety information, and then on the left hand side spine you'll find the details of what's included inside this actual box. So there's a lot of writing here as it's repeated many times in various different languages, but inside the box you'll find the Nintendo Switch 2 console itself, the left and right Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons, Nintendo Switch 2 AC adapter, a USB-C charging cable, a Nintendo Switch 2 dock, Nintendo Switch Joy-Con 2 grip, two straps for use with the Joy-Con 2s, and a digital download code for Mario Kart World. And on the right hand side we've got all sorts of information in various languages that again is general health and safety information. And then finally we have the back of the box, which shows some nice visual of the Nintendo Switch 2 being put into its dock. And as you can see, this actual box is actually just an outer sleeve. So once you remove this actual carded sleeve, you'll be welcomed with the actual Nintendo Switch 2 box. So the sleeve on the left is basically for the Mario Kart World bundle, as that's what we have here. So unlike previous times where the console box would be completely different from that standard Nintendo Switch 2 console, here Nintendo have got a carded sleeve that goes over the box, and everything inside this particular box here is going to be pretty much exactly the same as the standard console, but without a Mario Kart World download code. Once we open this up, you'll be welcomed with a quick start guide of telling you how to charge the console, which basically means get the USB-C cable and the power adapter and then connect those two together to then connect it into the Nintendo Switch 2 console, either at the top or the bottom. Once we open that flap up further, we'll be welcomed with the two Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons and the Nintendo Switch 2 console. So first of all, we're going to look at the left Joy-Con 2 controller, which has that aqua blue colour. So these are a lot bigger than standard Nintendo Switch Joy-Con controllers, and they have a sort of rubbered feel to them, so that when you grab onto them, it actually feels like you're holding something. Whereas before, the original Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons were a bit matte and sort of shiny and glossy and, you know, slip in your hands if your hands got a bit wet. And here's a closer look at the right Joy-Con, which uses that sort of orangey red type colour. Still on the traits of using neon colours for the original launch consoles. And again, same sort of style and design as the left side, but obviously black, red and white. And of course, this right Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Con features the Game Chat button, which can be found underneath the Home button. Now it's time to take a closer look at the actual Nintendo Switch 2 console itself. So this comes wrapped in plastic wrapping where you just move it aside and it slides out. Similar to how the original Nintendo Switch was packaged in the past. So unlike the original Nintendo Switch packaging, this is actually a bit loose and easy to slide out. I do remember having difficulties with the original Nintendo Switch packaging where it took quite a while for it to slide out the actual packaging, but here not such an issue. And as you can see, we have the vents at the bottom and at the top, as well as the USB-C port at the top and the bottom, and then we have the on for the power button, and then the volume up and down controls, and then the actual slot for the Nintendo Switch cartridges. And as you can see, the actual Joy-Cons themselves just magnetically click into place. And when they do magnetically click into place, it is very satisfying. It's more satisfying than the Nintendo Switch where you slide it in and hear that click. And the only way to remove the Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons from the Nintendo Switch 2 console is to press firmly down on this trigger button on the back of each Joy-Con 2, which will disengage the lock with the Nintendo Switch 2 console so that you can easily remove them. But when they are locked in place, they are very strong and durable. Here's a closer look at the actual kickstand, which initially I wasn't too impressed with, as the stand looks thin and flimsy, but after getting hands on here, it is strong and sturdy, which is great to see. Now, with all of the actual Nintendo Switch 2 goodies out the way, it's time to look at the actual innards. So behind this little secret compartment here, we'll find the digital download code for Mario Kart World, which unfortunately, dear viewers, you will not be able to use, as I've already redeemed it for my console and my profile. So hopefully I will see you online. There's some instructions on how to redeem the download code if you've never redeemed a download code on the Nintendo eShop before. There's then some safety information about how to use the Nintendo Switch 2 console, which if you've had a Nintendo Switch console in the past, or even a previous Nintendo DS or 3DS console, it's pretty much all standard. And then behind that, we have the ultra high speed HDMI cable. So you'll want to use this cable if you want to go for the 4K 120 FPS resolutions, or basically anything beyond 1080p 60 FPS, just to make sure that you're getting the best of, as obviously your older HDMI cables may or may not work. So older HDMI cables, because obviously there's different versions of HDMI cables, aren't as good, so it's best using the ones that are included here for the optimal performance. Next up, we then have the actual strap adapters for the Joy-Con controllers. So not only can these be connected to the actual Joy-Con 2 controllers themselves, so that you can hang them on your wrists, but they are also used for the mouse movement. So once you clip them into place, the bottom of the actual straps that clip onto the controllers are a little bit rubbered in, so they're not going to scratch and damage the surfaces, which is really great to see. Moving on and removing the cardboard box, we then have the Joy-Con 2 grip. So your Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons would click into place here, pretty much same as what was previously seen for Nintendo Switch 1, but as opposed to sliding into place, they now clip into place using their magnetic strips, and obviously it's a little bit bigger, but in terms of the general idea and how it looks and style, pretty much exactly the same as the first Joy-Con grip, but just bigger and better for this particular set of Joy-Cons. Next up, we then have the AC adapter. So nothing too special, it's just a standard AC adapter, but it does have the Nintendo branding on it. And apologies for all the finger marks that you can see. As you can see, when I get a little bit too excited and looking forward to unboxing things, my hands get a little bit wet, which, if that is the case, you will see your fingertips on the actual design of the console. So we have the AC adapter, and this is the USB-C cable that plugs into that adapter, and the cable length is 1.5 meters, which is a pretty reasonable size for a charging cable or power cable such as this. And then of course the final piece inside this Nintendo Switch 2 box is the actual Nintendo Switch 2 dock. So this Nintendo Switch 2 dock is completely different to the original Nintendo Switch dock for obvious reasons. So if you may remember from the reveal video for the Nintendo Switch 2 console, it does feature a built-in fan to keep the actual console cool when it's docked in. It has two USB ports on the left-hand side of the console that are outside, just like the original Nintendo Switch design. And then there is a removable flap, which, love them or hate them, it is there. And behind that actual flap, you will find the HDMI output, the AC power input, and the LAN ports. So unlike the original Nintendo Switch design, there is a LAN port built into the actual dock itself, which is great to see. But also there's no USB sockets or adapters on the inside of this particular Switch dock. They are all on the outside. So that's pretty much what you can expect to receive from the Nintendo Switch 2 Mario Kart World Bundle, but we're not ending this unboxing video here, as we are now going to unbox the Nintendo Switch 2 camera that we received in the actual Nintendo Switch Creator Pack that we got from Nintendo. So to start off with, we have the outer packaging of the box, which as you can see features the Nintendo Switch 2 camera on the front. So the actual Nintendo Switch 2 camera doesn't really have anything glorious or exciting to shout about. It's just basically a camera at the top, a thin pole, and then a stand at the bottom. But on the packaging, you'll notice some nice visuals on the left and right hand side of the box. And then moving to the back of the packaging is where you'll find all of the glorious information. So this particular Nintendo Switch 2 camera has a wide angle lens and high sensitivity image sensor with automatic brightness adjustment. Basically that means it will adjust the brightness and contrast of the room depending on if it's day or night time, and it will zoom in and focus on the actual person that's playing and talking at that moment in time. And the actual Nintendo Switch 2 camera as well can be adjusted up and down a little bit manually using the actual camera portion, and it does have a privacy feature where you can flick a switch and it covers the actual camera lens, or you can leave it open as you're only going to ever use it on the Nintendo Switch 2 game chat function. Now, unlike the Nintendo Switch 2 cameras that have been produced by Hori, this official Nintendo Switch 2 camera does have 1080p video capture, which is obviously at this point in time the best video capture you can get for the Nintendo Switch 2. But once we open the packaging, you'll be welcomed with the Nintendo Switch 2 camera information sheet. So this outlines how you will be using the camera and how to set it up on your Nintendo Switch 2 console. And in this case, it includes a USB-C cable that you would plug into the camera at one point, and then the other side of the cable will get connected into the Nintendo Switch 2 console. Originally, I thought it was going to connect through standard USB and not USB-C, so that I could use one of the USB ports on the side of the console, but that isn't the case. Instead, it connects via USB-C, so you'll have to use that USB-C port on the top of your Nintendo Switch 2 console if you want to use the Nintendo Switch 2 camera in a game chat. But the actual USB-C cable that does come with the Nintendo Switch 2 camera is pretty long. I don't know the exact length, but it did look longer than the actual USB-C cable that came with the console to charge it, which is something, I guess. And a little bit bizarre, as the cable would usually be near the actual console and dock itself. So here we have the Nintendo Switch 2 camera, and as I mentioned before, you can tilt the camera a little bit forwards and backwards to make it go higher up or down. And there is also the privacy feature on the front that you can twist. So by twisting it left, it locks the lens out, and by twisting it right, unlocks it so you can use it. And the really cool feature about this Nintendo Switch 2 camera is that the base of the camera is metallic, and that is where all the weight is in this actual device. So wherever you place it on your worktop or table or desk or anything like that, all the weight is going to be on that base and it's not going to be moving around, which is a really great feature, as cameras like the Kinect or PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 camera, they don't seem to have any weight to them, so they easily move around whenever you move the cable. But here, it's not going to move around when you move that cable, which is really great feature to have, as you want this camera to stay permanently wherever you're going to place it. So there we have it. That was the unboxing of the Nintendo Switch 2 camera, which as you can see in all of its glory here, and it's pretty nice and sleek. But that aside, a big shout out to Nintendo UK for sending me a sample of the Nintendo Switch 2 camera and the Nintendo Switch 2 console with Mario Kart World. And I hope you enjoyed this unboxing video, and be sure to check out the channel for even more Nintendo Switch 2 related content.